Hey everyone, welcome back to the YouTube channel. Today I've got a mid-month market update. I want to bring you the latest information, some real-time information. A lot of people enjoyed the last market update I put out, and I want to thank you. If you watched it and you're coming back for more, thank you. I appreciate you being here. Hit that like button and let me know. And also, if you're new here, hit the subscribe button. I'm making videos regularly, more than one video a week, showing you what's going on in the market, giving you tips if you're buying or selling, taking us on tours of cool homes. So let's get right into this video today. As I'm making it, it's mid-August, and I want to go through a few of the charts that I make up for my weekly team meeting. It's been a really funny year, and things peaked a couple months ago, and it's been a slow July. So everyone's wondering what's going to happen. So I wanted to get some early numbers here in August. I want to share those with you. The first one I want to share with you is this inventory chart. Inventory is a big indicator about what's going on in the market. And we've seen that inventory has been on the rise since a low point in December, rising all the way up to a high point just as the month ended back in July. And that makes sense because we were seeing an increased number of people put their homes up on the market. And then in July and June, we saw a big pullback in the number of homes selling. So you combine those two things and naturally inventory is going to rise. It's also interesting to note on this chart that July tends to be the peak inventory number in a normal year anyways, outside of these weird COVID years. So we tend to see the highest inventory number of any given calendar year in July. And this year looks to be no different. Now, just a couple weeks into August, though, we've seen the inventory drop by almost 10%. So that's interesting. And we're going to watch that number move on into the future months and see how that plays out. It is what we expect, and it's an indicator that the market's going to stay strong and balanced throughout the rest of the year. If that inventory kept climbing into the winter, it would have been a sign that we'd be shifting into a buyer's market and things would be dramatically changing. The next chart I want to show you is this demand chart, and I've got multiple colors on here. They're representing different cities. So we've got Brantford, Hamilton, Kitchener, and Burlington. And the reason I do this is just to show that there is a very similar pattern happening across all of our communities. It's not just anything unique to Brantford. The whole Southern Ontario and Greater Golden Horseshoe kind of moves and ebbs and flows as one big market. And what we saw was that the demand for homes really peaked kind of in May this year, which again is fairly natural. If you look back along the chart, you see those spikes in the data, usually right there at the end of spring. So we've seen a pullback in the number of people wanting to buy homes. And we also noticed that in typical years, we see a little extra spike, usually in September, October, as we get back to school, the summer months are over, and people want to get that transaction done before the Christmas season is here. And so we expect that also happening in the next month. Okay, this data here, month supply, this is an indicator that's really good at telling us what the pace of the market is. You hear when people say, oh, it's a buyer's market, it's a seller's market, it's a balanced market. This is usually the number that they're referencing. So the month supply is basically the current inventory divided by last month's sales numbers. So it tells us how quick the inventory is turning over. The higher that number rises, it means that there's more choice for buyers, there's more listings available when we go out and shop. And when that number gets down to around, say, 1 or below, that means there's as many homes coming on the market as selling every month. So the market's moving really quick. I put this line in here as one of my own statistical indicators. At 1.5 months supply, I call it the crazy line. And that's when we really see buyers start to act really wild, because the market feels super fast paced. It feels like there's not really much choice out there, and you end up getting buyers multiple bidding on almost everything. And you can see that for the majority of that pandemic market, we were below that crazy line significantly, and our market had never really seen conditions like that. Into early 2022, we came out of that line. Other than Kitchener, that town Kitchener just north of us, it still was very aggressive. It was having low inventory and high demand, but they're all kind of catching up again, anywhere between 2 to 3 months supply. And so we got to ask ourselves, okay, where does this lead, right? If the market is feeling in July 2023 like kind of the slowest it's felt in 2 or 3 years, what really happens next? And so when I look here at the August data so far, I want to see what's happened and what's about to happen next by measuring where we are at the halfway point in August. So these are a little bit of predictions, so we'll have to come back in a few weeks and see how I did. But if you look under the new listings column, we can see that in June, we had our peak number of new properties hitting the market, right? And then in July, that number fell to 187. And halfway through August, we're at 83. And so if I double that as a projection, that brings the total number for August even lower. So the projection would be that the number of new properties coming on the market is slowing down even through August. And sales, if we look at it, the demand peaked back in May and it fell in June, it fell again in July, but halfway through August, we were already at 55 homes sold. So if that continues, that means that the demand is actually rising back up in August. And historically, we know that demand usually rises in September and October also. So we could be in for a kind of balanced, strong fall market. We'll have to watch and see. And then again, as we look at the inventory, naturally, if we had more listings coming on the market and less demand, that meant that the inventory peaked in July. And as we sit here mid-month, it is actually down by about 10%, down to 226. So if we roll all these indicators out, it actually tells us that July was probably going to be the slowest feeling month of the year, at least for right now, and that August, September, and October are actually going to feel a little bit stronger. Naturally, usually the market starts to slow down in November, December. The last couple of years, it didn't really, because there was such low inventory that there was still, at this fevered pace. But I would expect that we have a typical winter this year. Okay, the last little chart I want to show you, or actually I got two more. This is one of the favorite ones I make every week. Stick with me for a sec because there's a lot of data on here. Along the bottom, we are indicating the asking price, and along the vertical axis is the selling price. And so this diagonal line I have here, if the dot is right on the diagonal line, it means it's sold at full price. If the dot is above the diagonal line, it's sold for more than full price, and below less. And then the size of the bubble indicates how long the house was on the market. So this is all the sales so far in August, and it can give us a really good indication of what's going on in the market. The things that I notice here, well, first of all, let me zoom in because there's only a couple sales over $1 million. So if I zoom in and we just look at the sales here from basically 300,000 up to 1 million, we notice that there is quite a bit of activity between 400,000 all the way up to about 950. I also noticed that a lot of the dots are really small. The majority of the market is moving quickly. It's the fresh listings that are selling, right away as they come on the market. And then the bigger dots indicate that there are some properties that are eventually selling. Now, what I notice is there's not a lot of dots selling significantly under the full price line. So that tells me also that what's happening is that sellers are eventually correcting their prices and then getting that number versus leaving their price high and finally accepting a low offer. You do see a few of those. Ignore that one super high red dot. That was an error in the data that's been corrected. Somebody put in the wrong sale price when they reported their home sold, and it was since corrected. You also see these clusters around the even numbers. For example, at 700, 600, 500, 400. What's happening there is those are all the properties that are priced at the 99s. So at 699, 599, 499. And it's a very common strategy. But also what we're seeing is it might not be the best strategy moving forward. You might be better off getting the accurate price on your home instead of just throwing the nearest 99 price, which has been typical for the last little while. Okay, one more chart to show you mid-month. And again, as we're getting through this, let me know if this stuff was of value to you. If you have any questions about the real estate market you want me to address in the next video, let me know. This chart I throw up here to remind everybody about where our town, Brantford, sits. So we're the big number in the middle there, 675. And what I've done is I've brought in the median detached home price for all of these communities, and I'm measuring it right now from January to August. So this takes into account all homes sold so far this year. And what you can see is that there's very much a GTA effect. As we move closer into the GTA or up into the Kitchener-Waterloo corridor, prices escalate very quickly. And as we move further away, prices get more affordable. So it's interesting to me, a couple things on this chart. Number one, we're at the same average sale price as London, Ontario, which is a much bigger city, tons more amenities. It's a much larger community, but it's so far away from the GTA that it's not sucked into that GTA real estate market. It's not like anyone's really living in London and commuting to Toronto, right? It's out there, it's its own major city. The other interesting thing is Burlington. Now, I travel into the Burlington area quite a bit for some recreation activities, and it takes about 40 minutes, 45 minutes, depending on traffic, obviously, but if you're not bogged down in heavy traffic, about 40 minutes to get to Burlington, and the house price is double. So that is really wild to me that, just as we move into the GTA, whether it's Burlington or Milton, you really have a massive spike in the home price. And so that's why we're seeing people coming the opposite way because of affordability. We're seeing people move from closer to the GTA and be willing to come here and settle in Brantford and perhaps relocate or commute to work or work from home. And it is also quite interesting that just up the corridor in Cambridge, Kitchener-Waterloo, Guelph, the prices for homes, and we're talking about the same average home, instead of it being $675 like it is here in Brantford, we're looking at $820,000, $840,000, even $900,000 just 20 to 40 minutes away in any of these communities, right? Okay, so I hope you found this information useful this month. We'll be coming back in another 2 weeks with a full update of what August had in store for our community. I've also promised one of you here on YouTube a Paris update. So I'm going to build in some Paris data for our next video. If you have any questions or you need help with your move, just feel free to reach out. I appreciate you being here. Hope you subscribe, leave me a like and a comment, and we'll see you on the next video.